Hey everybody, it's great to have you with us. My name is Chris Murphy, and with me is Patrick Soukup. We are the co-hosts of the Fort Collins Fellas podcast. Patrick, why don't you tell our listeners and viewers a little bit about the podcast and why we started it?
If you're coming to listen to the Fort Collins Fellas, you're coming to get all the information necessary and needed to live the best life possible in Fort Collins, Colorado. Let's go.
All right, guys. Well, hello, listeners. We are on, I'm losing track, episode 26, 27. But Patrick and I are here. We have a great guest with you. I'm going to call him the Ron Swanson of Fort Collins City Council right here. We got Mike Calhoon, who is the Director of Parks. Mike, welcome to Fort Collins Fellas. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great, guys. I really appreciate you having me on here today.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, if you're on the YouTube channel, Mike looks like he's being interrogated by the FBI, but he's in his own little private office. For those that are just on the podcast, you'll have to check that out. But Mike, first of all, I got to ask, are you a Parks and Rec? Do you know the show Parks and Recreation? Do you get that reference at all?
Oh, I get the reference, and I know of it. I have to admit, it's hard for me to watch sometimes because there's parts of it that hit a little too close to home. But then there's other parts of it where I go, yeah, they don't have that. No, that's not right.
Well, Ron Swanson is one of the great characters in television. I got to tell you, it's truly a compliment. But, well, Mike, great to have you. So real quick, I want to get your background and everything like that, but you've been the Director of Parks for 7 years, it looks like, and you've been with the city of Fort Collins for almost 18 years. So you really got a good feel of what's going on. And we're excited to dive into this. But why don't you just start off and tell our listeners and viewers how you got involved in this business, and we'll just go from there.
Well, I got involved the old-fashioned way. My oldest brother was the Director of Parks and Recreation in the city of Sarasota for over 30 years.
Oh, nice.
And so I come from a big Irish Catholic family in the Midwest, and so he's several years older than me, as I like to remind him often. And he gave me some really good advice, and so I fell into the field that way. Chris, I do have to correct you. As of next month, I'll have been here with the city of Fort Collins 34 years.
34 years. Well,
I was going to say 33 and 18. I was like, this ain't adding. No.
This is like that's my crack research right there. So
sorry, I know sometimes it's hard to. I always tell the team in there, somehow we got on the ice age, and they said, "Oh, you remember that?" And I'm like, "Yes, I do."
I blame LinkedIn for that one.
Yeah.
So 34 years, Mike. That's amazing.
34 years. I started as an hourly. I had a degree in Parks and Recreation based on the advice from my oldest brother, and I started as an hourly and had on my resume that I wanted to be the director. And my then boss, Bob Loven, who still lives in this town, is a great person, looked at me and he says, "That's a great goal." And I said, "Yes, sir." He goes, "You're going to be picking up trash and cleaning restrooms and prepping ball fields, right?" And I said, "Hey, I'm not afraid of hard work."
Yeah.
And 26 short years later, I achieved my goal.
I love it.
Awesome.
Yeah. So it's been an amazing journey. And the coolest thing about it is the people that I work with and the people in this community who support us so well.
Can't go wrong with that. I love it, Mike. Can you tell, so you're Director of Parks, what does your day-to-day schedule look like for those who are what do you do? I assume you're not picking up trash these days. You've earned that right to pass that on to somebody else.
I would be willing to bet he does pick up trash from down the bed.
Well, you know what, guys? In the last couple of years with the pandemic and some of the weirdness that went on and the early out that a lot of people took in their careers and the turnover and things like this, I have picked up my share of trash the last couple of years and done some weeding and things like this because the team's working hard. But I mean, last year, I think the closest we got to fully staffed was 25 people down.
Wow.
Okay. We have about a classified staff. Now, you have to understand, we have 5 divisions in the Parks Department. And I know it gets a little confusing because one of those divisions is Parks Maintenance. All right. And that's my biggest division, the Parks Maintenance Division. But I also have the Park Planning Division. I have Forestry, I have Golf, and I have Cemetery.
Wow.
So run those 5 divisions. We have about 105 classified employees, and we hire about 250 hourlies every summer to help us provide the services to all those different facilities and sites, trails. We run about 45 miles of paved trail in town that we maintain. We've got like 52 parks, whether they be real small mini parks like Freedom Square or Oak Street Plaza Park downtown, all the way up to our big community parks like City Park and Twin Silent. We also take care of the downtown core. We take care of all the streetscapes and medians on the main arterials.
Jeez.
We have over 57,000 trees that we maintain, and the team tries to prune 20% of those a year. We've got 3 wonderful, very distinct municipal golf courses, starting with an old course in 1941 at City Park 9, which is actually the only of our 3 courses that's ever held a PGA tournament. And then we have Collindale out at Horsetooth and LeMay. That is traditionally a U.S. Open qualifier. And then we've got Southridge, which is the only course that gives you the grade changes that you see at Southridge and the beautiful views, Long's Peak and the Front Range. So we have all of those right there. And then we have 2 great cemeteries in town, anchored by our granddaddy of them all, 1887 Grandview Cemetery.
Mike,
So we got a lot of stuff going on.
you got 50. So okay, this is great stuff. So we have 52 parks in the city of Fort Collins. Did not know that. We'll put it'll be like a trivia question, Patrick, we should throw in there. 45 miles of paths. Is that like bike paths?
Yeah, 45 miles of hard surface or concrete trails that we maintain. And that does not include the Mason Street Trail, which is part of the MAX bus line.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, that Streets actually maintains. They put that in years ago as part of the bus rapid transit system. So they actually maintain the MAX line and that trail, but we maintain all the others, the Pooter, the Spring, the Fossil Creek, the Longview, all those trails.
Power Trail.
Our system. Yes, sir. The Power Trail is one of them also. And matter of fact, we just recently opened up a maintenance facility on the east side of the town, which is going to help us improve the level of service on the Power Trail in particular. One of the things that my team is really, really proud of is the level of snow removal we do.
Yeah.
And people call us all the time and they go, the trails are safer than the streets. and I said, okay, I first off, I say, thank you, right? Because that's a really, really nice compliment. And then I say, now you have to understand, Mallory Gallegos' team over at Streets is challenged with hundreds, if not 1,000 miles. I don't even know the number of how many lane miles they have to clear, right? They don't have the luxury of using a broom.
Yeah.
Okay. They use a plow. And because years ago we started we instituted almost like a precinct system, like in police departments. We used to have one shop at City Park, and now we have 5 maintenance shops spread out through town. And of course, we have equipment at each one of those shops. And what that allows us to do is to jump onto those trails in those different areas and start brooming them. So we take these mowers that we use during the summer, we drop the mower unit off, and we put a broom on. And that gives such a great surface for people to travel on our trail system. I mean, they just absolutely love it. And I'm a trail user, and I love it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really cool thing that the team is very, very proud of putting out there for the community.
Jeez, that is great. Now, do you also maintain the medians?
Yes, sir. We maintain the medians on the arterials. So if you have a median in your neighborhood, in your HOA, those types of things, we don't maintain that. But if you're on the arterials, or if there's what we call a streetscape, which is that area between the sidewalk and the curb on the arterials, we're involved there also, depending on what the development agreement said whenever that was put in with, the development of your neighborhood.
So Mike, are you, sorry, go ahead. I was just real quick. So like the entryway into Fort Collins, like Mulberry, they're going to be, doing that,
Mm-hmm.
over the next few years. Are you actively in those meetings and part of that planning?
Well, in this particular phase of it right now, I haven't been actively involved with it. I know that our engineering team and our planning team, they have all been in there and they know when to bring us in. But if I moved you up a mile or so down the road to Prospect, right?
Yep.
Okay, you see what's going on at Prospect and the development there. we are actively involved in that part of it because we're getting ready. We've been involved with since they started planning the landscape. And so that's where our team will come in and take care of what we know how to do real well, which is landscape maintenance. And to be honest with you, there's not a whole lot of people that have the depth or the capability, even in the contractor ranks around, to be able to provide the level of service that we do. And we're real thoughtful whenever it comes to working collaboratively with our contractors and the private businesses in town. We try to, one of my philosophies is let people do what they do really well, right? So we do have some larger contractors that we actually employ, and they take care of some of what, we consider our grass medians that all you have to do is irrigate, mow, blow, and go on, right? But whenever you start doing some of the plantings, the horticulture piece, there aren't too many contractors big contractors that can handle this load and this volume,
Right.
That have this skill set, right? And so that's what we actually gear up for. We gear up for that specialty piece, and that's what we lean in and take care of.
Okay.
Is the more high touch, actually more visually attractive medians out there. So we do a blend, and we do that throughout our whole system. We want to work collaboratively with the businesses here in town. For instance, a great example is forestry, right? Even though, I've got a really great team that I'm very proud of, probably now about 30 people that are in the forestry division alone, but they can't prune 20% of 57,500 trees in a year. So we work collaboratively with our other certified arborists in town, and we contract with them, and they come in and work right next to us. There's projects where we had 4 contractors on College Avenue, along with our 3 crews out there, and we go right down the road, and we get a lot of work done. So we're really fortunate that we've got some of the businesses, the quality of businesses that we have in town and talent that we have in town, and we can blend that together. So we're helping them. I mean, it's always great for the economy, right, to have good, strong, healthy business community. So we work with them, but then we also bring expertise to the table and try to make sure that we're putting that level of service on the ground that everybody appreciates. And they show their support so often for us. It's just wonderful.
So you're him. You are the guy. I mean, City of Fort Collins is, there's so many different departments that have so many important impacts on our community and why Fort Collins is such a great place. But a buddy of mine was talking to me, and he says, there's just such a distinguishing barrier of when you move from Loveland to Fort Collins, of how it's maintained, that I am in Fort Collins now, and it's the medians, the trees, the curbs, there's so many different things that just make Fort Collins so spectacular. And you and your 5 divisions are such an integral part of that success of Fort Collins and over the last, 34 years. So, wow. This is super cool. I didn't know what I was getting involved with. Chris set this meeting up, and I was coming here not knowing necessarily, but thinking parks and things of that nature. But wow, great job. I just want to take a second and say we, as citizens of Fort Collins, appreciate you and all that you do.
Well, first, thank you. And I represent a big group of people that are the ones that are really out there doing it. Chris, you asked earlier, what does my regular day look like? Well, this is part of my regular day. Is I talk a lot nowadays. I have to look at my watch and get my steps in because I'm not moving as much as I used to when I was in the field. So I have to watch my weight. But, I talk a lot, and I try to tell our story, because it is such a great story. And it's really cool. One of my little sticks that I always tell people is, I bet you guys can't guess who my favorite person in town is. And don't say my wife, and don't say my kids.
Jenny Arndt, the mayor.
You know what? I really like Jenny. She is awesome. I love talking to her. She lives right across from City Park, Yeah. And so it's really cool, and I actually office over there. So sometimes I see her. But I always tell people my favorite person in Fort Collins is the one that just came back from vacation. And the reason being is because they go, geez, the water's amazing. Look, the traffic that I thought was really bad 3 months ago is like nothing compared to where I just was.
Yeah.
Look at these trails, look at these natural areas, all the things that you mentioned. I love the person who just came back because all of a sudden they have perspective and they go, man, I really appreciate what we've got here. And, it is
Mike,
so wise.
I was just talking to Patrick's a real estate agent. I'm on the mortgage side of things. We're in the real estate business here in Fort Collins. But I was just talking to a couple 2 days ago. They live in Virginia Beach. They're moving to Fort Collins, and we talked for 10 minutes about the biking and the hiking. Like we weren't even talking about, boring stuff like mortgages and everything like that. And they absolutely love the bike trails. And, just to piggyback on what Patrick says, my wife's a huge runner. I live right on like College and Prospects. We're right by the Spring Creek Trail. And it's amazing. Those trails are always clear within like a day after a snowstorm. And it's phenomenal. So definitely a huge shout out to you on that. Quick question on the trails. There's a lot of discussion about connecting these trails with Greeley and Windsor and what is the status on that and expanding our trail system?
Well, I'll tell you what, you guys are hitting it right at a really opportune moment, because
that's what we're here for, Mike. That's what we do.
Got this one. This one, your research paid off really well, because next year we're updating the trail master plan. So we're going to start working on that process this year. And that's really what's going to give you, it's kind of our guiding post for how we're going to develop the trail system. Of course, we've got development going on in the northeast of town, and we want to connect that together. We've got the 2014 trail master plan that addresses that. But, as you can imagine, 9 years ago, it looked a lot different up there.
Oh my God.
And so this is a really great time for us to really dig in real tightly. I just hired a new senior planner in our park planning and development division that's going to help us with that trail master plan update. And it's going to be fantastic this year. Hopefully later in 23, if not in early 24, we get under I-25, right? We're reliant on the CDOT project there. But as you probably have noticed, going over and through the construction and over the river, it's a lot higher than it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so we can get under.
Right? Are you talking over by like Walmart and Costco?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So this is a project that's been going on, believe it or not, for over 40 years.
What?
To take us from Bellevue to Greeley.
Wow. Okay.
And so we're working with Laramie County, with Timna, of course, our park planning and development division is Ramrod on our side of it. And we're going to get, push under I-25 and connect it up. We got one small piece of trail in addition on our side to get done. There's a couple of pieces on the east side that they have to get done. And once we got that, we're from Bellevue to Greeley.
Wow. That's awesome.
Which is awesome. I mean, I can't tell you, 34 years ago, I was out brooming the Cooter Trail at 4:00 in the morning when it was asphalt, and it was all rough and tumbly because that was the standard back then. As you all know, nowadays we do concrete about 10 foot wide. It's much smoother and all this stuff. But to think back 34 years ago, doing those small sections of the Cooter Trail that we had, relatively speaking, and to think that now it's going from Bellevue to Greeley is just an amazing thing. And, there's an old saying that we build on the shoulders of giants, and we have. And that's a legacy project that will be really cool that I get to see during my career complete.
Well, congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
No, that is huge. So what will that, when you see, so that's 45 miles of prepared trail plus the Mason Trail. And how many miles would you say are currently in the works in Fort Collins, roughly? Not with the new master plan, but are currently in the works of being either started or completed?
Well, Patrick, if you're just talking this year, I think we've only got inside of town. We're working on a half mile on the west side of I-25 in that connection that we were talking about. We've got some trail over at near Fakin Elementary that we're working on that maybe another 3/4 of a mile. There isn't a ton of trail work this year as far as new trail developments, but that's just because of the timing. We work off of a willing buyer, willing seller opportunities to put the trail system in. So we're trying to work ahead, 5, 10, 15 years with developers or individual landowners. And that's where it gets, to be honest with you, it gets a little sensitive whenever it comes to put the trail master plan together, right? Because say you own 30 acres and I happen to drop a trail through it, that might shock you. Right?
No big deal.
And so,
sounds like a city council meeting right there.
Well, I try not to let it go to a city that to me. I'd rather have a willing buyer, willing seller kind of conversation. And that's one of the things that we're trying to work on. And one of the reasons why I hired that planner last Monday is to work on those type of out in the future projects so that we can have something that's a win-win for everybody.
Nice. Mike, maybe it's a stupid question, but you talk about like a buyer and a seller. The money to build these paths, that's just tax dollars? Is that what's going?
Actually, believe it or not, we actually do that with lottery money through conservation trust funds.
Lottery money?
Yeah. So
buy your lottery ticket, you run hikers.
Yeah. I mean, you buy a lottery ticket, it helps support the trail system in Fort Collins. And so the Conservation Trust Fund that gets its money through the lottery has, restrictions on how their funds can be used. We get a percentage based on a formula at the state level, right? And we usually end up with like $1.4 million a year.
Wow.
Good a little more lately because of, I do believe because of COVID, because people have been playing the lottery more, and which is wonderful. But there's several things that trust money can be used for. But council years ago has said that they would like it to be focused on the development of our paved trails. So that's what the lion's share of the money has been used for. We've used it for some maintenance activities and some other projects that have come up over time. But we try to, in general, always use that on the development of the paved trail master or the paved trail system in the community. So that's how we build that paved trail system. Now, all the operations and maintenance, that snow removal and the mowing in the summer, that's all general fund dollars that come from sales.
Okay, that's good to know.
Mm-hmm.
That's good to know.
Curveball for you, Mike. Are you guys responsible for the flowers downtown?
That's one of the things I'm most proud we're responsible for.
Oh my God!
So, we get such support for the horticulture program in the downtown, and of course that team that does a lot of the work downtown, a lot of planning and pre-purchasing and things like that, site prep. Also, those folks that help out with the meetings, right? Because it's got that. Once again, I want my folks to be doing what they do well, right?
Yeah.
The downtown flowers sometimes can become a little bit of a contentious issue because of the fact that folks look at it and they're just by your reaction. They're memorable and they're beautiful, right?
Oh yeah.
And that's exactly what we want to do. Some people see like the banana plants that we have there and they're like, oh geez, this is over the top. You're using too much water. You make it look like a tropical rainforest, things like this. And this isn't appropriate for semi-arid desert. And what I try to explain to people is I hear exactly what they're saying, but I think we can do it both ways, right? And I feel like our team does it both ways because we lean in. We're so lucky to have partners like over at CSU, right? So CSU, where the trial garden is, just for you history buffs out there, used to be a park called High School Park. I used to take care of it years ago. We traded High School Park for the grounds that are on the where the gardens of Spring Creek Garden.
Oh,
with CSU. So once again, if we didn't have our partnership with CSU, we wouldn't even have the gardens on Spring Creek looking the way they are right now. But Dr. Klett at CSU runs those trial gardens. And every year my team goes over there and goes to school. So he's got his teams planting all kinds of varieties of different plants. And we get to examine them in a real live laboratory, right? That's in our environment. So we're pulling species that are thriving in our semi-arid climate, utilizing only 6 to 9 gallons of water per square foot per year. And just to give you a frame of reference, that's opposed to 15 to 19 gallons of water per square foot per year that you use in your yard. Okay. So we're very resource conscientious, right? So we're utilizing that information we're getting from Dr. Klett. We're working that into our designs, and then we're putting those in the downtown in these 3 different palettes that we use of designs, so that every year I get the compliment, which is wonderful, from folks that go, "This is the best year ever. This is the best year ever." And I'm like, well, we had it 3 years ago. This is the same palette 3 years. But see, that's what's great is if you do 3.
Yeah,
forget.
There you go.
if you do 2 every other year, people remember.
Yeah.
But if you do 3, you got it. And so, it's just, we just want to get the word out that we are being very resource conscientious. We are choosing the right plant for the right place. And, like we're gonna go on a little bit of an offensive this year. We're gonna do QR codes in those shrub beds in those pots, so that people can go up and scan it and see what's planted in there.
Oh my God!
So they can do it at home. They can use those things at home, and they'll be successful here.
Like I love that because my wife and I, we walk through those flower gardens all the time. We live right across the street from there. And I have a little app called Picture This, and I'm constantly taking pictures and figure out what it is so we could plant it in our yard. So that QR code is huge. That would be great.
Yeah. I can't wait to put the little sign in front of the banana plant that says, "Hey, do you realize I'm 6 years old?" Because what people don't realize is that we take those banana plants in the winter and we put them in the foyers of city facilities
Oh, cool.
to overwinter them. And then we bring them back out and incorporate them into the downtown, horticulture program. So we're trying to be really, really thoughtful and, resource conscientious, not just water, but also, financial resources, right?
Right.
We have a great partner in the Downtown Development Authority that really is supportive of what we're doing down there. They help pay for the maintenance.
Yeah.
They pay all the maintenance of all the alleys.
That's awesome, Mike. I got to give you a little bit of a hard time, or I'm a huge golfer. First of all, I grew up playing in Fort Collins. Actually, my team at Fort Collins High School, we won a state championship at Collindale back in the late '90s. So love it. Why did you flip the 9s at Collindale, the front 9 and the back 9?
Well, it had to do with, after working with the pros and the concessionaire there, it had to do with the speed at which we could get people off the back 9 and come through and get their hot dog or hamburger or whatever on the turn.
Okay.
It just worked so much more smoothly, and it was safer for the golfers and everybody going out to the front 9 and back 9.
So it didn't have anything to do with, as I was a golf pro for many years, so did it have anything to do with the houses that were used to be along hole number 6 with the mowers in the morning? I always thought it had something to do with that.
No, it really didn't. Somebody else brought that up to me, Chris, and I appreciate what they're saying because noise is something we want to be a good neighbor, right?
Right.
And especially at Collindale, and more importantly at Southridge, because that's built in more of a country club style.
Sure.
We always want to be conscientious about where we're at what time. And so, as you can imagine, if you just imagine between Collindale and Southridge, it's very easy for us to keep our mowers at Collindale well away from the homes until we need to mow near the home.
It's also easier to get from hole to hole. You don't have to go over roads and through houses and everything like that.
Exactly. So it had nothing to do with with the mow time and things like that. The team could figure that out even before we.
Okay. I was curious about that. I was wondering because that just caused a huge stir within the golf community, Mike, here at Fort Collins.
Yeah, I always loved gripping and ripping it on number 1, and now I've got to take it a little bit more conservative.
I know, right?
Well, you don't want to go to Collin jail, right?
That's right. No, don't want to smash any cars.
Just go punch out of those trees. Don't get caught in those trees.
Oh, that is my neighborhood. Oh my God. I want to jump back though real quick because I know we're fiscally conservative, but now I want to throw some, if you can, off the top of your head, high stats, how many flowers do you plant downtown, or how many thousands of dollars worth of flowers do you plant every year?
Well, I can't give you the exact number, Patrick, but I can tell you that, we have about in the downtown area, we have a couple $1 billion operation. Okay.
Wow.
And you got to understand that downtown area includes 3 blocks east and 3 blocks west of College.
Yep.
So, and it goes from about LaPorte all the way down to Mulberry.
Yep.
Okay. It includes several city facilities and parks. It's got Oak Street Plaza Park. It's got Civic Center Park. It's got Library Park.
Is it Washington Park right there as well? Is that part of it?
Yes. Washington Park, which is one.
Oh, Mike, you just muted. Oh, you got a cough.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Yes, Washington Park is one of our oldest parks in town, and it encompasses all those areas down there. And of that $2 million, about $225,000 to $250,000 it just off the top of my head, is for our horticulture program at all those areas, not just in the downtown core, but at the city building and at the library, at City Hall, those places like that also get some horticulture love also. So it's about $250,000. And, when you think about it, I'll probably get this number wrong, but I think downtown Fort Collins, when you put a box around it, it takes up like, I want to say 6 or 7% of the square footage of town.
Mm-hmm.
But it drives like 11, 12, 13%, maybe up to 15% of the sales tax.
Yeah.
So I really feel like it's a really good investment in the downtown.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's something that everyone looks forward to every year. I've never necessarily thought about the financial, side of it, because I think Fort Collins is a very well-ran city and very intentional and deliberate about things that they do. But the people that come here and see it and conversations and beauty, I mean, it's just like we just invest in these weird things that happen to be the greatest. Flowers and alleys and medians and curbs that like you ignore until you go to it, like you said, go on vacation and be like, what is this? Like, why I left paradise for what?
And I just got to give a lot of credit to the past leadership, whether it be from our council to our city managers, to the folks that have been leading in the organization for years of always thinking outside the box, and the leadership giving us the ability to take risks and try different things. It's what makes it cool, right? I work in a service unit called Community Services, and it's made up of parks, like we're talking about, recreation, natural areas, and cultural services. And I try not to poke my finger in the eye of the other city employees, because I love the people at streets and utilities and PD, and I have great relationships with them. But I really think that we're kind of like the secret ingredient in the secret sauce, because we touch your lives, we touch your heart. Whether it's you're going to a play over at the Lincoln Center, you're going to take a stroll in a natural area. Your kid's going to learn how to swim over at Epic, or you're spending time in our, parks and golf courses and things like that. We touch your heart. And so that's what's so cool about working in our service unit, is that people really appreciate what we do, and they're really vocal about it. And let me tell you, we're not perfect. There is no way, I will never say we're perfect. We always do the continuous improvement model of plan, do, check, act, try to improve how we're providing services, whether it be financially or being resource conscientious. But boy, oh boy, the support we get from the community and the support we get from leadership, from council on down, really gives us the freedom to take risks, do some really cool things, and make this community kind of the unique place that it is.
Well, I think the number one, we talked about it, but one of the number one drivers of people moving to Northern Colorado is lifestyle. And I think what you are doing is essentially the lifestyle. Like that is in essence what it is to be Fort Collins lifestyle, is everything that you're touching. So that makes complete sense.
Yeah, it's amazing when you look at, if you think about it, how did we get involved as an organization with places like Bobcat Bridge in the county and Soapstone? That's because we thought big, and we were given that permission to think big. And a lot of communities don't get that.
Yeah.
So,
Mike, what as we kind of wrap up here, what's one of my questions I had for you is, as a resident moving to Fort Collins, or somebody like Patrick and I, we've born and raised here, what's getting you excited for the future? What's on? I know we talked about the trails underneath I-25. Is there anything else that we should know about that the city of Fort Collins and the director of parks is working on?
Yeah, for sure. One of the things that we've been trying, kind of a tough enough to crack that we've been working on for years is what a lot of people might call asset management or life cycle. We are now branding it as infrastructure replacement program, and we're trying to figure out how to close the funding gap for our infrastructure. So if you think about it, guys, we've got parks like Washington, and you guys know where Lincoln Park was?
Mm-hmm.
Library Park. That's what it was. was Lincoln Park. Those were our two original parks in the community. And of course, our first community park was City Park from 1912. But a vast majority of our parks have come on since 1966. And that was because that was the year we established Parks and Recreation. So, and if you start going forward, we're passing that 35 to 45 to 55 year range for some of our parks, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's coming down is we need to be thinking about more aggressively resourcing our infrastructure replacement program, so that we can replace the assets that you see above the ground, things like bathrooms, playgrounds, fencing, even roads inside of our parks, inside of some of our parks, to things that are under the ground, like irrigation systems, which is probably the biggest one, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of them are at their lifespan or beyond. And, we're performing a little black magic, keeping some of the sites looking as good as we do. Sure. But we are falling behind with our infrastructure replacement. And so one of the things I'm excited about is that City Council, in particular, City Council Finance Committee has been working really hard. They've met at least 5 times that I can recall on trying to figure out some funding gaps in the organization, one of those being the infrastructure replacement program in parks and recreation, because recreation has the same issue, right? If you think back, we didn't have a recreation facility before 1966, really, besides Club Tico, okay? But that was because that was inside of City Park, which was built in 1912, right? So we didn't have the Epic Center. We didn't have Northside. We didn't have, the senior center.
Right.
So they're all getting to that point where they're getting fairly old. And the recreation department has a lot of equipment inside of there that they need to replace on a regular basis also. So between the two, we have about an $8 to $12 million funding gap that we need to close on an annual basis, so that we can keep replacing the equipment and amenities that you see in our system to keep the level of service up where everybody enjoys it.
You should reach out to Pat Stryker, Mike. See if you can write that check.
Well, she is a wonderful person. She's
I know.
So supportive to the community. It's just absolutely.
Yeah. Well, this has been. God, I'm sitting here writing down notes left and right. I didn't know City Park was 1912. The 52 parks. 1966. I'm just like, it's like I'm going back to Fort Collins High School again here.
Well, I can, if you ever want to get offline and go and have a beverage, I can give you the full history piece where, for instance, Grandview Cemetery is actually the 3rd cemetery in the city.
Gotcha.
So I can tell you where the other 2 were. So.
Well, Mike, this has been amazing. Man, thank you so much. We're going to have you come on, and we're just going to bring on, your other colleagues to talk more about this, because I don't think Patrick and I really knew the extent and the detail and, the whole flower thing, Patrick. I never even thought they asked that. That's crazy.
Well, I've got some great teammates. Leanne Williams runs the recreation department. She's fantastic. Jim McDonald runs our cultural services department. He'd have a wonderful story to tell. Katie Donahue does the natural areas. She's a great person. I think talking to any of those folks would be wonderful. You guys would have a great time hearing from their perspective, the level of service that we provide the community and the support we receive from the community, which is critical.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned beverage. One of the things that we kind of end every episode with is, after a Friday afternoon that you just finished planting all the flowers in downtown Fort Collins out in the sun for 10 hours, you decide, hey, let's go have a beer on a patio. What patio in Fort Collins are you having a beer at?
Okay. My watering hole is the Island Grill.
Oh, interesting.
Oh my God, Mike, that's where my dad goes all the time. That's so.
Yeah, sorry, I'm probably you be his age, And I am as far as a beverage drinker, I am an Easy Street guy with a lemon.
Ooh, so, that sounds good.
Yeah. I love New Belgium Mountain Time. I've got a good buddy of mine, Dave Potsaboy, who lives right behind me, who works in New Belgium. He got me hooked on Mountain Time, and I love sitting on the Odell patio. That is fantastic. In my Easy Street, I think that's the best wheat beer that's ever been made.
Mike, who's the owner of the Island Grill? Remind me.
His first name's Mark.
Mark, that's right. That's
That's
right.
his last name.
That's right. No, I've met him a few times. So
And then you gotta love a place where a guy comes walking around on a Friday night going, "Hey, how you doing? You guys having a good time?"
Yeah.
You know, not
Always.
that personal touch very much anymore. You know, and I know it's just because people are busy and town has gotten bigger, but Mark makes it feel like a hometown place.
Well, Island Grill has been there for what, 20 years?
Heck yeah.
it's been there a long time.
Got some live music in there still, Premium, you know, and they have some of the best wings, the honey habanero wings. I love them.
I'll have to check them out.
Yeah.
I love it. Mike, thank you again. Patrick, that's all I got, buddy. This was the Ron Swanson of Fort Collins, Mike Calhoun.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate you having on.
Hey, thank you guys.
Thanks, Mike. Talk to you then.
All right. See ya.